this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop. And under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving.
Again, a pleasant morning to everyone and welcome to grades 2, 3, and 4 Parents Orientation for school year 2022 to 2023. I am Dida Alvarez from the grade 3 language department and I will be your moderator for today. Should you have any questions about the presentations today, kindly just type them in the chat box and please address them to chat box 1 or chat box 2 so that we can collate everything and answer them after the orientation. We will be putting everything in an FAQ document, which we will share with you through the website of the school. Please also take note that we are recording this activity and we will make the link available to you on the same website. The Parents Orientation is a venue to share with you the school's thrusts for the year. So our dear parents, please join me in welcoming our school president, Father Aristotle D. of the Society of Jesus, as he shares with us his message to the community.
Greetings from Xavier School. Welcome to a new school year. Recently, the Department of Education announced that for this school year, they are expecting all schools to return to face-to-face schooling. In fact, for the public school system, they already started several months ago. But they also shared that among private schools, only about 7% have started face-to-face education in the last several months. We are very proud at Xavier School that we were part of that 7% when we piloted our HiFlex classes some months ago before the last school year ended. And now we are ready to launch our HiFlex model for all the students coming to school when the new school year starts on June 20. I'm very happy to note that more than 80% of you signed up for on-site school. And so you have received the primer, you have received the sectioning, the schedule of the alternate reporting to school, every other week for all the grade levels. You have received all this information, and today I just want to affirm that we are really in a very positive situation today. For more than 3 months, we have already been on alert level 1. If we think about vaccination, which is really the game changer, I can reaffirm to you that all our faculty and staff reporting to school are vaccinated, and their booster shots are also in process. We have been reporting to school full-time for the last several weeks to prepare for the new school year. Among students, I can share that more than 90% in high school are already vaccinated. In the grade school, it's a bit lower at a little over 70%. So we are in a different situation from the last 2 years of Xavier School e-learning or Excel, when so many protocols had to be observed. Because of the Philippine response to COVID-19, we are notorious for having the longest school lockdowns in the world, and that really has to change. And it will change this month when we return to face-to-face schooling. You know that we have put some measures in place to help us manage this situation. Our most basic safeguard is still wearing the face mask, frequent hand sanitizing, and ensuring good ventilation in indoor spaces. Aside from the health protocols that we will continue to observe, we also have the color-coded uniforms for all the grade levels. Even if the IATF no longer requires daily reporting of or daily declaration of the health status, we will still have the HDF for all faculty and staff and for all students. We have an app developed by our alumni at Dash Labs, and we who are reporting to school have already been using it for the past several weeks. When the students report to school, they will also use that on a daily basis. Why is that? You might say there's no need for that anymore. Well, we just want to be careful, especially during the first term. The practice can change later in the year, but for now, we would like all of you to take a moment of mindfulness every evening when you fill out that HDF form for the next day, just to make sure that your children are not exhibiting any symptoms. And if they are, then you will fill up the form appropriately, and that means you should not report to school the next day. It's nothing to panic about. It's just that we need you to pay attention every single day to the health situation of your children. Before the pandemic, we always had cases of students reporting to school even if they had symptoms already of the flu or some other condition. We cannot risk that during this situation when we are transitioning to a return to face-to-face schooling. So I ask for your patience. We are all in transition. We are all working very hard to reboot, to start our school system again in person. So, when your students come back to school, we will spend a lot of time on routines, on getting used to school life again, what the classroom situation is, how to behave, how to carry out various activities. The first few weeks of school will be vital for this. So we need patience all around, from the students, from you parents, from everybody in the school community, so that we can start this new school year with a strong footing. Having said that, we also recognize that we live in a particular historical moment in our nation's history. And therefore, we cannot be concerned only about the practical aspects of returning to on site schooling. I know that that alone is a lot of work. But education is, after all, about the formation of the whole person. And therefore, there is also a thrust that we want to pursue this school year. Do you remember the vision of Saver School Education? What kind of person do we want to produce? Who is the ideal Saverian? The ideal Saverian, we've always said, is a person for others, endowed with the passion for justice and the skills for development. That's a formulation that comes from our longest serving school director, Father Ismael Zuluaga. For about 20 years now, we have been pursuing that vision through the framework of the 6 C's. Do you still remember the 6 C's? Competence, culture, conscience, compassion, community, and character. Shout out to our kinder parents and transferees. This may be new for you, but this is important to understand about Savior education. What do the 6 C's mean? What place do they have in Savior education? Well, they have a primary place. Every lesson plan, every classroom activity, every sports activity, every service interaction, every field trip, we think about them, we organize them, we design them in terms of the particular C's that they promote. So what is going to be our thrust this school year, our way of pursuing these 6 C's? The thrust is bridging the gaps and making connections. You can probably understand why. One of the biggest takeaways from the recent elections is how divided we are as a country, socially, economically, politically. Of course, we have a new government in place. We want to support the new government. We want them to succeed. But we want to do that also remembering that we belong to a democratic tradition where honesty is important, where there's room for opposition, for resistance, when we feel that what is happening is not the right way to proceed. We will have space for that. And therefore, when we say bridging the gaps and making connections, we would like to enflesh that further in 3 particular areas of focus. First, engaged citizenship. This is also what we focused on last year as we prepared for the elections. But now, we know that we cannot focus only on elections because it's hard work and it requires sustained work to build a nation. So, to pursue competence and culture, we want to continue promoting critical thinking. We want to be committed to historical facts. We want to be committed to the truth. We want to be committed to justice. So we can talk about all these issues having to do with our history and ideas about how we must shape our future through a democratic framework. These may sound like big words, but at the end of the day, it starts with students understanding how important it is to be honest, to always continue learning, and to pursue integrity in all areas of life. For example, academic integrity. In the last 2 years of online education, we saw that, it's so easy to cheat if you want to cheat. But through our Excel program, we have tried to communicate to you that what's important is to learn, not to compete with others, not to aim for recognition. And therefore, we will do our best to maintain academic integrity in our systems, in our teaching, in our assessments. But in the end, the students have to do their part, and you parents need to support them and make sure that you are affirming the correct values. So for competence and culture, we will continue with engaged citizenship. A second area of focus will be caring for communities and creation. And this will highlight conscience and compassion. Conscience because we want to remind everyone in the community that in Ignatian spirituality, we put a primary focus on finding God in all things. We experience God in the realities of our daily life, and not only during our time in church when we are praying or when we're attending Mass. And what is happening in the world today is precisely where we need to live out our faith. I mentioned earlier how divided we are as a nation, and therefore those gaps need to be narrowed rather than widened. So when we review all our service interaction programs, all our campus ministry and service offerings, that's what we want to aim for: depth, narrowing gaps rather than widening them. We want to aim for solidarity among peoples of different backgrounds. We want to genuinely care for each other, no matter what our differences are. And this is very much aligned with what the Society of Jesus in the Philippines and in the Asia Pacific region are also trying to promote: caring for communities and creation. So what's that second part? Creation. For so many years now, we have been talking about the importance of taking care of the environment. In the words of Pope Francis, caring for our common home. He has that encyclical, Laudato Si. We've done a lot of talking. The words are all there, the very nice documents. But have we done enough? And the answer is no. Before the pandemic, we were trying to push so many environmental practices in the school, like, no more pet bottle drinks being sold in school or being served in school. But what happened during the pandemic? We prioritized hygiene, efficiency, safety. So all the single-use plastics came back. Packed food in styrofoam, plastic utensils. We're polluting the oceans again because of our massive use of plastics. Well, it's time for ecological conversion. Now, this concern cannot remain on the level of ideas. We have to change our lifestyle, and now is the moment to return, to reaffirm our commitment to environmental protection. So this is something we are going to pursue. We want everyone to, bring their own containers to put your food in when you avail of services in the canteen. We would like people to bring their own utensils so that we don't have to keep using plastic utensils, use them for one time and then throw them away. And then we don't even know where they're going to end up. We need ecological conversion. And those are some very simple examples. You can look at so many other things. Our contribution to carbon emissions, the kind of power we use, the kind of fuel we use. All of this have to do with daily lifestyle. So we want to care not only for human communities, but for all of creation. I would also like to share with you some developments in our New Valley campus, where we aim to have 25% of the student body on some form of financial aid. Last March, we graduated our first batch of Zuluaga scholars, those graduates of public elementary schools who come to us for junior and senior high school. The first batch graduated with about 13 students, and I'm so happy that some of them made it to the country's top universities, including Ateneo de Manila and UP. Aside from this program that is constantly growing, I would also like to update you about our commitment to ERDA Tech For more than 10 years, we have been running this technical vocational high school in Pandacan, Manila. But due to various developments and also the pandemic, we are no longer able to reopen that campus because we don't own the property. So after many discussions, it has been decided by our Board of Trustees that we will offer a technical vocational senior high school track in our New Valley campus. We have partnered with Dualtech and Toyota Motors Philippines for the technical training while we take care of the academic formation. The recruitment process has been ongoing. I think we will accept about 12 to 15 students in the first cohort. And this is yet another manifestation of our deep desire to care for the poor, to care for communities. And this is a wonderful program to launch during the 10th anniversary of Xavier School New Valley this year. So that has a particular flavor in our New Valley campus when we say we are caring for communities. Third area of focus, relationship and sexuality education. What is that, you might ask? Isn't that sex education? Well, if we go back to the thrust, we said bridging the gaps, making connections. Even before the pandemic, we already saw that there was a big gap in our so-called sex education. When we reviewed what we were teaching in the various grade levels, we felt that sometimes it's too little, too late. Our students are digital natives. They are seeing so much on the internet, online, especially when new parents are not around. Who knows what they are exposed to? When you look at the youth surveys, we find that they are so concerned about sexuality issues, sexual orientation, gender identity, the place of sex in relationships. And we ask ourselves, are we providing enough guidance? Are we sharing the riches of Catholic teaching in these areas? There is always so much content to cover that we feel if we rely only on CLE classes, and in fact that is the reality, we cannot cover all these topics. And therefore it needs to be approached from a multidisciplinary perspective. So this is how we are pursuing community and character. No? Relationship and Sexuality Education, or RSE, aims to develop lifelong learning about physical, moral, and emotional development. We want to emphasize that any discussion about sex education has to be grounded on human relationships. When you talk about sex and marriage, it has to be founded on respect, love, care for each other. In the relationships that make these acts, particular expressions of love, relevant. And that is where we feel there has been a big gap, and now we want to start bridging that gap by communicating to our students that school and family should be safe spaces. They should not be afraid of bringing up these concerns, these issues, and talking to us about them. Because the alternative, I think, perhaps for many years, is that they are dealing with it on their own, learning about it on their own, forming their values in their own way. And it doesn't include us. Maybe they feel that, oh, if I bring that up with my parents or with the school, they just say, oh no, bawal yan. All of that is forbidden. End of conversation. No, we want to create safe spaces. And that's the first step, to be able to talk about these concerns openly, to journey together, even if the answers are not clear, but at least to be able to talk about them, process them together. And here, your role as parents is so important. We will do our utmost in school, but at the end of the day, it is you who are the primary formators of your children. So don't feel daunted. We will organize, together with the Parents Auxiliary, some sessions with you to tell you about what we're teaching through the leadership of CLE, science, and guidance departments, and what role you can play to complement what the children are learning about in school. So there you have it, bridging the gaps, and making connections, which we will trust that we will pursue this year through three particular areas of focus: engaged citizenship, caring for communities and creation, and the relationship and sexuality education program. I pray that all of us will be guided by the Holy Spirit as we begin this very exciting school year. God bless you all.
Good morning, dear parents, and good morning, dear students in grades 2 to 4. Obviously, that was a pre-recorded message, but I wanted to be here in person to greet all of you, to welcome you to a new school year. I was very relieved yesterday when the government announced that we are still on alert level 1 for June 16 to 30, today until the end of the month, which means that we will be able to proceed without any glitches or any obstacles for the opening of the school year. But just to let you know that actually, even if the alert level goes up to level 2, we still proceed because the DepEd rules are actually applicable to alert levels 1 and 2. It's only a matter of capacity. And our capacity restrictions right now are already aligned with alert level 2, which is maximum of 50% capacity. So there's a lot of information being shared with you. There's more this morning. And if you have been paying attention to your inbox, your email, you must have seen all the memos, aside from the ones I already mentioned in the video. There's one on access gates. Just yesterday, the one on Dash Labs, the daily HDF form that you need to fill out. That's also with you already. You need to activate your accounts so that you will have a seamless access to the campus if you're in the on-site group this Monday. So plenty of information, plenty of maybe anxiety or confusion about particular things. But I just want to assure you that everything will fall into place. Everything will be okay. Everything will be sorted out. Let's just be patient with one another. Let's be supportive of each other so that all these protocols we need to observe will be implemented according to plan, and we will be off to a very exciting, very meaningful school year ahead. We're really very excited to see most of the boys back in school this school year. So I hope you have a very informative and enriching morning ahead as we listen to our grade school principal and assistant principals for their additional inputs as we face this new high-flex school year. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Father Ari. The points that you've raised earlier have really given us food for thought as to how we could best address the needs of our students today. So parents, if you already have some questions in mind, please don't hesitate to type them in the chat box. And please don't forget to address them to chat box 1 or chat box 2. All right, so at this point, I would like to invite our grade school principal, Mrs. Jane Cacacho, to tell us more about what is in store for us, for everyone this school year. Mrs. Cacacho?
Good morning. I would like to begin by welcoming all of you to a new school year and for thanking you for your trust in Excel for the last 2 years. And of course, to our new parents, welcome to the Xavier School family. As you know, Xavier School has always been known for academic excellence and how our curriculum is designed to ensure not just rote memorization in the students, but critical divergent thinking that will allow students to solve real-life problems in the world that concern them. This meant rigor as seen in the subject matter content, type of instruction, and even in our assessments. When COVID-19 came into the scene, even as we were committed to delivering quality education, we were also mindful that offering effective quality education is not possible without first addressing the more basic needs of the community. And we prioritized Maslow over Bloom in the design of Excel or Xavier School e-learning. Now that we are transitioning from Excel to HighFlex, we continue to be mindful that there are basic questions that need to be answered. First, will the children be safe and feel safe in school? Two, will the children learn given the new setup of having combined Zoomies and Roomies with only one teacher handling the class? Third, will our children be treated fairly as compared to the other group? To answer these questions, it is important to realize that the accountability in ensuring that the answers to them is shared by both the home and the school. The community will be safe and will feel safe only if all families abide by the protocols, practices, and policies of the school. In many cases, the reason why the parents and the students do not trust the school is because they know that other families get away with not following rules and regulations. But even as I say this, I would also like to clarify that we do not plan on policing um, and catching miscreants. Rather, we would like to continue to invite your trust by assuring you that we will prepare your sons for whatever he needs to do in school, both academically and behaviorally. We will put in place practices that will invite him to believe in himself and in his efforts rather than just be concerned about grades. And we will be mindful that with the high flex setup and the pandemic comes an uneven playing field. The school would like to give all of you a feeling of safety and security in knowing that we, as much as possible, will take into consideration what your son's concerns are and what he needs. To pay attention to a student's context is to prioritize equity over equality. The high flex setup will make it impossible for roomies and zoomies to have exactly the same learning experience. And we have already surrendered to this reality. Our teacher's goal is not to replicate activities automatically, just to be able to say both groups said will do the same things. Our teacher's goal is to discern when differentiating activities in the interest of context and when standardizing in the interest of efficiency is needed. This is to say that there are some activities that the roomies and the zoomies may do differently, but there will also be many instances when they will be paying attention to the same thing in the synchronous period. The teachers will try their best to make sure that no group is left behind in terms of academic preparation and character formation by constantly asking these questions in red. One major question that has been cropping up is what kind of tests will be given and how will these be administered given that we have two setups. The only thing I can say at this point is that regardless of the type of test for each group, assessments will aim to check for the same set of learning targets for all students. Depending on the lesson, some tests may be the same, some tests may be different for the two groups. But then again, the teachers in preparing and administering the assessments will have these questions in mind. Are the test questions valid and aligned to the learning goals? Do on-site and online groups have a similar chance of successfully showing their learning? Will one group have undue advantage over the other? And at this point, some of you might already be imagining what that undue advantage may be. Yes, online students will have access to unpermitted resources. Yes, online students may have people at home who provide unfair assistance during tests. Yes, some students will have over-enthusiastic helpers at home who will do more than what is allowed of them. I say all this because it's actually an admission that despite all the efforts of the school to preserve academic integrity, students could and would benefit from dishonest behaviors if they engage in them. However, I want to point out that children feel terrible when they know that they have been dishonest or when they did not follow their teacher's instructions to work independently. And because we at Xavier are very aware of this, we have already put in place structures and practices so that your sons do not have to cheat. Since the beginning of Excel 2 years ago, in our efforts to deter academic dishonesty, we already took out academic awards from kinder to grade 6 so that there is no pressure to earn grades beyond their capabilities just to meet unrealistic expectations and demands. Our assessments ask for application of learning, not just memory work. Consultation with teachers is made available to those who need extra academic assistance. Students who do not show enough evidence of learning in a test are given a second chance to do this after an additional encounter with the teacher. All these prop students for success. Academic success that the students can earn on their own and be proud of. More importantly, they drive home the message that with enough hard work, everyone can become better. And for this school year, we are adding yet another practice that aims to further develop the growth mindset. This is the redo opportunity for grades 3 to 6 students. When an assessment is deemed complex and difficult, the teacher may decide to offer the students a chance to improve their submitted work after seeing their first score. Students may request for additional feedback on how they could do better in that particular graded assessment and then submit an improved version within a particular time frame. This is put in place to let students realize that there is always room for improvement. It is important to realize that this practice is not simply a matter of changing wrong answers to correct ones in order to get higher points. This is an exercise in academic self-reflection that invites students to ask what else they need to do in order to improve their work and to effect those improvements diligently. This opportunity is only available starting at grade 3 given the level of complexity required in the assessment and only in the assessments where teachers feel that a redo may be formative and helpful. The redo option is not a required exercise, and students may actually decide to stick with their original work and their original grade. For those who resubmit a work, their improved work will be graded according to the rubrics and will be given all the marks it deserves. On the other hand, a resubmitted work that is done haphazardly may also be given a lower mark if it turns out worse than the original. Please note that the grading system has also been revised to allow teachers to give more accurate feedback regarding student work and performance while being mindful of the capabilities of the elementary age school children. The highest grade of A includes getting all questions correctly and even going beyond what is asked for. Passing is D, and IE remains to signify insufficient understanding or no proof of understanding in cases of non-submission. Similar to the pre-pandemic scenario, these letters are used as scales and describe the quality of performance rather than just reporting the number of correct answers. We do this to emphasize the focus on what was learned rather than the number of points earned. Next slide. At this point, let me discuss some of the updates and reminders which will be needed in the following year. As you know, because we need to meet the cap of DepEd, okay, we have split batches into two groups. Batch 1 that reports earlier and batch 2 that reports a little later. After we released the initial set of class lists, we got hundreds of requests to move from one batch to another. And as promised to you, and as I described earlier, we do pay attention to context. And so we have been very generous in granting the requests. Okay? You have not seen the results yet. We will be releasing a new set of class lists this afternoon. And you will see there the result of your request for a transfer of batch, section, or from roomie to zoomie, etc. But because we have been generous in granting requests, please note that this has resulted in the unequal class sizes across sections. I will show you concretely what this looks like. Okay? Now, many of the requests from roomie to zoomie, okay, came from the reason that these families preferred an alternating weekly reporting instead of every day, every week. However, when we granted all requests of Zoomies to become roomies, we hit the DepEd cap. And because we hit the DepEd cap, we are now forced to do alternating schedules, alternating weeks. Given this, we already disregarded original request to go to Zooming, okay, from a roomie because in a sense, we have acquiesced to request to go alternate weeks. Okay? Now, next is, as I said, you will not get an individual email about your request, but rather we will just issue a new set of class lists. After this afternoon, okay, after our release of the new class list, you may have requests to shift from a blue to gold or gold to blue schedule, which means that instead of reporting first week, because your other child is reporting on the second week, you might need a change to that. That's fine, okay? We will accommodate those, but we will not accommodate movements from batch 2 to batch 1 anymore because the class sizes in batch 1 are already bursting at the seams. Okay? Next slide, please. So, next slide, please. Okay. So, you will see that there are three types of students from grades 3 to 6. You will have your roomie blue. These are the roomies that report on alternate weeks, Monday to Thursday to school. Okay? And we have the roomie gold, the other half of the roomies. And the third group would be our Zoomy fixed. These are the parents who said their children will simply report full online via Zoom, okay, for the entire school year. You may still change your mind after the first trimester, of course. Okay, next slide. Let me show you how our class sizes look like. Let's look at the gray colored boxes. These refer to our grade 2. As you can see, sections A to E are in batch 1 and the class sizes total to a maximum of 34. If you look at our batch 2 class sizes, that's from sections F to J, the class sizes are way smaller, 8 students less or so. Okay? And so if after listening to me this afternoon, you'd like to switch to a batch 2, we are also accepting such requests. Okay? Now, the number of Zoomies would be shown in the next column. And while it has a total number there, you will notice that it's a gradient color I used as background to mean to say that the numbers there will be further subdivided. So the 27 roomies of grade 2 section A will be further split into the roomie gold and into the roomie blue. So same applies for grade 3 and grade 4. I'll give you a few seconds to appreciate the numbers. May I just also say that the division of the roomies into blue and gold may not necessarily be equal 50-50. Okay? So, for example, let's look at grade 4, section B. Grade 4, section B. The total number in that class is 33. 22 said that they would like to report to school. 11 said they will stay home the entire year. Now, the 22 may be split into 11 blue, reporting on the first week, 11 gold, reporting on the second week. However, so it means that Zoomies for the first week will be classmates with 11 gold in Zoom. And on the second week, the same Zoomies will be classmates with the 11 roomie blue. However, let's say you have another child who's either blue or gold and not in the same color as this boy of yours in grade 4B, then you may request us to move him from blue to gold or vice versa. And when we grant those requests, we can actually end up with roomie blue of only 10, okay, and roomie gold of 12. And the numbers can be lopsided, but it doesn't matter anymore. Okay? So, that's the, and if you look at the numbers again, looking at grade 4, sections A to F would be the morning batch, the earlier batch. G to K would be the later batch. As you can see, again, the difference in class sizes is significant. That's the reason why we will not entertain requests to move to batch 1 anymore. Okay? All right, let's go to the next slide. How will the schedule for the first 2 weeks of classes look like? Okay, on the first week, okay, that we start on June 20, we feel the need to give an intensive on-site routines orientation to our on-site boys. And since on the first week, it's Rumi Blue that's reporting in school, only Rumi Blue will have classes on June 20 and June 21 so that the class advisor and all the teachers will be able to give 100% of their attention to these boys who are physically in school. What will Rumi Gold and Fixed Zoomies do? They will have 2 extra days of vacation. They don't need to log into Zoom. They don't need to come to school. Come June 22, Rumi Blue will continue to report to school, but this time, Rumi Gold will now log into Zoom, and so will the Zoomies Fixed. That's going to be the same scenario for Thursday, June 23. And as mentioned in our primer, we follow an online Friday schedule, which means everyone, roomies and zoomies, including teachers and staff of Xavier, will report online on Friday. Come the following week, on June 27, this time it's Rumi Gold's turn to have that intensive on-site orientation on on-site routines. So, Rumi Blue will not have to report to school, okay? Zoomy Fixed will also not need to log into Zoom. However, there may be asynchronous videos that will be shared with you and that your child can view on those days so that they can make productive use of their time. Come June 22, Wednesday, again, we are going to resume the high flex setup wherein Zoomies and Roomies will be classmates during synchronous period. And once again, come July 1, everyone will go online. If there are questions, just type them in the chat box. Next slide, please. Let me continue on to the health protocols. We are highly encouraging you for the protection of your family, especially your son, to have them vaccinated. But we are not requiring vaccination even for on-site students. During the parents' town hall meeting last March, we said that our original plan was to require unvaccinated students to present a negative result to an antigen test prior to their week of reporting. While under this current alert level, we will not require that in the meantime. This may change if the alert level changes. Okay? But given this current alert level, roomies who are not vaccinated may report to school without presenting any screening test result. May I just say, I've been getting direct messages in the chat box. I cannot answer them now. May I request you to make sure that when you type your questions in the chat box, make sure it's directed towards chat box 1 or chat box 2 so that we can address them, okay? Otherwise, we won't see them. Okay, now, how else will the vaccinated and unvaccinated students differ from each other? If there is need for isolation due to the presence of symptoms, vaccinated students may isolate for 5 days only, while unvaccinated students will have to isolate for 14 days. Okay, so that's one major difference. Next slide. Next, okay. Now, what if a student, let's say, comes to school during the temperature check at the gate was fine, does not show symptoms, but in the middle of the day, suddenly starts coughing, okay? Then this boy will immediately be asked to leave the classroom and proceed to the triage area outside the school infirmary, where he will be seen by our nurse or doctor on duty. When the symptoms are COVID related, I will already tell you, we won't know. Almost all symptoms look like COVID, right? So almost every time, this is what will happen. We will call you, the parents, and if you can pick up your son within an hour or so, we will let your child stay at the isolation area to wait for you. However, if after that particular time has elapsed, your son will be brought to Cardinal Santos and you will have to pick him up from there. Okay? Now, once he is, because he has already been brought there or already sent home because of the presence of symptoms, that child will have to already observe the either 5 or 14 days of isolation. If the boy will observe as long as the boy observes the required number of isolation days, there is no need to present a negative antigen screening test result prior to coming back. He can just report back after observing the number of days plus, so number of days plus that this boy should have been symptom-free for the last 48 hours prior to reporting to school. Now, what will happen to his classmates who were with him on that day? They just continue reporting on site and should be more observant of whether they will develop symptoms or not. If they develop symptoms, then they will also, like their classmate, observe the number of days of isolation. If they do not develop any symptoms, they will just continue reporting to school. Next slide, please. Okay. To illustrate, let's talk about a sample ruby blue boy who is vaccinated. So vaccinated, only 5 days of isolation. Let's say on July 4, Monday, Rumi Blue develops symptoms and is sent home. Because this boy is sent home in the middle of the day, that's already counted as isolation day number 1. Now, he is scheduled to come to school that week, but because he needs to isolate, he stays home for the rest of the week. So day 2 is July 5 and so on, so forth. While he is in isolation, if he is well enough to attend classes, he will, for those days, simply become a Zoomie and be classmates with Rumi Gold and Rumi Fixed. Okay? And then come July 9-10 weekend, no? So if he remains symptom-free on the weekend, 9 and 10, that means that for those 48 hours, he is symptom-free. He can not come back yet on July 11 because even if he is symptom-free, it's not his turn to report to school. So he continues reporting online. And come the next week, on the week of July 18, if he is well without symptoms, then he rejoins his bubble of Rumi Blues and then reports on site all the way to Thursday until online Friday. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, what if Rumi Blue is unvaccinated? What? And this is a different scenario. Let's say Rumi Blue comes to school on July 4, Monday, and for the entire school day does not show any symptoms. But that night, after dinner, suddenly develops a fever. When he does, when you fill out your health declaration form through Dash Labs, you will have to tick the box that says he has symptoms. Okay? So he cannot report to school the next day. And because he is unvaccinated, he will have to isolate for 14 days. That day, because he still reported to school, is not considered as isolation day 1. Isolation day 1 starts the succeeding day, Tuesday. So let's start to count. Okay? July 5 is day 1 and so on so forth. And if you count with me, July 18 is day 14 of isolation. If from July 17, Sunday, and July 18, Monday, he is symptom-free, this Rumi Blue can already report on site on July 19. However, if he still continues to exhibit symptoms, he has to continue what do you call this? He has to continue isolation days from the new time that the symptoms show up. Okay? So you count your 14 days again or 5 days again from the time that a new set of symptoms present themselves. Okay? So, next slide, please. Okay. Will there be situations when we will not follow what I described? Yes. If, let's say, in the class, we notice that there are a number of students already showing symptoms. There are a significant number, let's say 4 or 5 students showing the same symptoms. Instead of observing what I said earlier, that roomies just continue to come to school, we might decide to say, okay, this batch, or depending on the scenario, this section, okay, of roomies will stay home in the meantime. Okay? We'll do a lockdown for that section or the batch, depending on how the situation looks like. But you have to wait for us to tell you about those things. What else? When the alert level changes, let's say it goes to level 2. We'll give you a circular certainly about it, but what could possibly change would be we will continue with the high flex setup, but we might be stricter with exposure. We might be stricter with requiring the screening test result. Okay? We might be stricter with other things. Okay? So, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, and we will make sure to update you every step of the way. Next slide, please. Okay, this time I just like to say that when we did Excel for 2 years, when we were fully online, there were many good things that we discovered that we could do during a full online modality. And so we said that we don't want to lose all of them. And this is the reason why we're doing online Fridays. We discovered that yes, while the online scenario is not the best for a daily scenario, students do learn there is a place for online activities, and we can actually help everybody contend with the traffic situation if we lessen the on-site reporting by one day. And so we're doing online Fridays. This is a good way to transition from a pure online to a pure on-site, somewhere in the middle. Now, we also saw that asynchronous activities are good. It has its place. And so we will continue to give that. We also saw how helpful Friday emails were in terms of the parents being able to prepare the materials early, or in assisting Zoomies if they suddenly get disconnected. To be disconnected is not to disengage in class. It simply means to be more self-reliant and to be more independent during that period, because you already have all the materials at home. One other thing we saw as actually being better was the online PTCs. So we will continue with the practice of doing online parent-teacher conferences. However, in some cases where not during the trimester PTCs, but should you need to have a face-to-face meeting with our teachers with sufficient preparation and scheduling, this will also be possible. Now, we saw also how the parents benefited from knowing how Schoology and Seesaw work, or that they appreciated knowing the online tools the teachers were using, no, like Padlet, Kahoot, and so many other apps. And but instead of scheduling them in synchronous workshops during the parent orientation, we respect your very busy schedules, and so we will simply provide you with video tutorials that you can access at your most convenient time. Next slide. One thing that the grade 4 students can look forward to is the first Holy Communion. No? So we're bringing it back, but just note that because of the 2-year hiatus on sacraments, we have we have 3 grade levels receiving the sacrament this year. So half of grade 6 and the entire grades 4 and 5 batches. So the grade 4 students will have theirs the latest. Why? Because the CLE lessons of grade 4 are actually the preparatory activities to make sure that your children are intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally ready for the sacrament. So all those will be done in the first 2 trimesters, and they will have their confession and first communion in the 3rd trimester. Note the second column. We take the sacraments very seriously, okay? Which means that before we have your child undergo this, we want to make sure that he personally is ready and that the people around him are ready to support him. Having said this, a parent recollection is a must, is a requirement for your son to receive the sacrament. Okay, next slide. Okay, at this point, I would just like to reiterate Father's message earlier that a lot of patience and understanding will be required of you parents. No, there are some things that you did not have to think about during the pandemic that you again now have to think about always. Travel time was never a problem before. Traffic, please anticipate that already. No? Waiting time, lots and lots of waiting time. We understand that this is our reporting time to school, but this may not be your exact drop-off time of your child to school because you are just also on your way to work. Or your son is coming in with a sibling who is reporting a little earlier than he is. And that will entail waiting time for him, or in the afternoon, waiting time again for them or for you. And again, preparation time. When it used to just take your son 10 minutes to wake up, get up from bed, brush his teeth, uh, comb his hair, turn on, or wear his uniform and turn on the gadget, this time it will take longer. So you have to factor all those in. Also, these changes come with certain inconveniences. Like with when your son was staying home, you didn't have to fill out the HDF through Dash Labs. You'll have to do that every night, okay? And even if it really eats up your time, you have to do it. That's a policy put in place for the protection of the entire community, okay? Um, Cashless transactions are available, but not for grade 4 students and younger. This is for our older kids only. Okay, next slide, please. We have tried as much as possible to consider context, but we understand that there may be some things where we were not able to grant request, or you may have additional concerns. And so in these instances, we invite you to get in touch with us. But as I say this, may I just issue a reminder that want if you want a quick and efficient response from the school, when emailing us, please make sure to provide complete information. Let me just share with you something funny but certainly very inconvenient for the GSPO. Okay? As I said earlier, after the initial class lists were released, we got hundreds of email. And many of those emails looked and sounded like this. Email sender, the email is a personal email. For example, beautifulgirl@gmail.com. So we don't know who that is, right? And then it said, Dear GSPO, please, we don't have a driver. Please move my son from batch 2 to batch 1 because his brother is reporting early. Thank you. Can you imagine the big question mark on our faces after reading such an email? We don't know beautifulgirl@gmail.com. We also don't know who the boy is who needed to be transferred from batch 2 to batch 1. And we also do not know who his sibling is who's already in batch 1. And that kind of email requires a turnaround of who are you referring to and so on. So if you provide us with all the information, we will be able to address your concern a lot faster. Okay? Now, second, this is our usual protocol. The fastest way to get a concern addressed is if you direct your email or your communication to the person directly involved. If something happens in class, email the teacher. Okay? If if it's let's say behavior related, you may email the guidance counselor and so on and so forth. If you are not happy with or you're not satisfied with how the concern is addressed, you may elevate the concern to either the department chair or the team leader. Again, you're still not happy, elevate to the assistant principal. Still dissatisfied, then elevate to the principal. And If you feel that I have not been able to address your concern, Father Ari will be willing to listen to you. But only if you have exhausted all the other means by which we could have addressed your concern. Okay? And of course, in all your communication, whether it be a phone call, an email, kindly be polite and respectful. We are trying our best. Okay? We are trying our best and we are taking care of thousands of Savior School families who all mean the same to us and we care for all of you. Next slide. And so I'd like to end by reiterating that while considering individual context is truly difficult, we still try to do it. Okay? But at the end of it all, sometimes it's not possible. So I hope that you found my presentation helpful and informative. But more than that, I also hope that you found it reassuring to hear that the school, within the confines of what is possible given its limited resources, does not impose a one-size-fits-all mold for everyone. Careful attention and due consideration are afforded to situations that warrant them. However, since we are a big community, we also ask for your understanding when we say we cannot grant all requests, as we have to prioritize the interest of the bigger community in our final decisions. We thank you in advance for your support and cooperation, even when the general situation may not be the most ideal for your individual circumstance. Thank you very, very much for listening.
Thank you so much for the informative presentation, Mrs. Cacacho. So parents, if Father Aries and Mrs. Cacacho's presentations have already surfaced concerns or questions, please remember to send them to chat box 1 or chat box 2 so that we can include everything in the FAQs that we will be preparing for you after this session. All right, so now to talk about important grade level concerns, especially reminders for the first few days of school, let us now call on the grade 2 team leader, Mrs. Maricon Liwecki.
Good morning, parents. I am Mrs. Liwecki, the grade 2 team leader for this school year. We hope that everyone is safe and well. We are looking forward to meeting your sons either in person or through a screen in a few days. At this point, please allow me to discuss the important information that you will need to know before the opening of classes. For the uniform, having a school uniform helps create an atmosphere of structure and formality. As the students gradually report back on site, it is important to let them feel that the school environment is not as informal as their homes. And as such, there will be more rules to follow, and wearing the uniform is one of them. All students, both on site and online, are required to wear the Xavier School issued collared shirt complete with a school logo and a name tag sewn on top of the logo. Insofar that this is a school uniform, please note that similar collared shirts may not serve as alternative attire. This top should be paired with a decent pair of bottoms, can be shorts or pants, and rubber shoes. Understanding that many were not able to place their uniform orders on time, we will allow students to wear any collared shirt in the absence of the official school uniform in the first few months. In other words, we are allowing the use of the usual Excel uniform that your son wore last year until such time that we make another announcement. Once again, we would like to reiterate that for those who do not have their uniforms yet may wear their Excel uniform or any colored top of any color in the meantime. However, if to date you still have not placed your orders, please do so as soon as possible, as the production of the uniform takes time. The best way to do this is to physically go to the bookstore found on the ground floor of the junior high school building, room G234. You may also email accessbookstore2020@gmail.com, but this may take a longer time. Okay, we have placed, you might want to take a photo of this slide so that you can email the bookstore. Okay. Still in the uniform, students are required to wear a yellow Xavier PE shirt paired with the blue PE shorts or jogging pants on their PE day. Footwear consists of white socks and any comfortable and well-fitting rubber shoes. For the haircut, while we are still in a pandemic, we will not be strict with hair length, but we will require students to keep their hair clean, properly combed, and presentable. Long hair may be neatly tied back into a ponytail. Other hair accessories will not be allowed. For home routines and learning space for Zoomies, the quality of learning is directly affected by the conduciveness of the student's learning environment. Given this, we ask that you provide your son a permanent learning space at home. He will need a table, chair, and an electrical outlet for charging his gadget. School materials should be within reach to avoid wasting time looking for them when needed. Make sure that the dedicated learning space is well lighted, well ventilated, and comfortable, as he will not just attend his online classes there, but will also accomplish all schoolwork that needs to be done at home. For communication between the home and the school will issue each student an excess parent email. This means one email address for every child you currently have enrolled in Xavier. All official school communication, like messages from the class advisor, reminders for makeup tests, general announcements, and the weekly schedule, will be sent through this email. We request that you check your excess parent email regularly. When getting in touch with the school, please also use that email so that you can easily be identified as the parent of your child. A teacher's directory containing the email addresses of your son's teachers, such as his class advisor, guidance counselor, student supervisor, and other subject teachers, will be provided to you. Kindly refer to this to inform us of any of your concerns. As mentioned by Mrs. Cacacho earlier, the most efficient way to get a concern addressed is to directly contact the teacher or school authority involved. At this point, kindly allow me to remind everyone that teachers have limited time to check their emails. And so, even as they wish to answer you as quickly as they can, please allow for a healthy turnaround time, usually 1 to 2 days, for them to respond. Email received after 4 p.m. will be read on the following day. In cases of emergency, you may call the grade school principal's office or the ODS, the numbers of which are displayed on the slide. You may want to again take a picture. Okay, for Friday or weekly emails, we shall be continuing the practice of sending Friday emails that contain school announcements, the schedule, and the materials needed for the following week. Kindly follow the instructions as regards downloading and printing of materials. Roomies will be required to bring their worksheets that have been printed at home to school. Going to school with complete materials can ease school anxiety and will make your child more confident in going to class, either online or on site. For routines during synchronous classes. So during synchronous classes, Zoomies should be logged in to Zoom the entire period using the Xavier issued parent email account. In case your son gets disconnected, he can always use the conference links on the weekly schedule to log back into the class. Routines on recitation, asking questions, going to the bathroom, doing seat work, and others will be discussed in the first few days of school for both the roomies and the Zoomies. So we request you to help us impose these school routines during online classes from your homes too. Recognizing that Zoomies may have limited opportunity to ask questions during the synchronous classes, they may seek the assistance of the teachers during the consultation period, the schedule of which will be found in your son's class schedule. In gadgets to be used, grade 2 roomies do not need to bring a gadget to school. Given this, grade 2 parents should be extra mindful of the worksheets that may have to be printed at home and brought to school. The grades 3 and 4 roomies are required to bring their fully charged iPad to school. A circular was emailed to you regarding the installation of a mobile device management system software in your son's iPad to help with classroom management. Please make sure this is done prior to the opening of classes. Please stand by for the memo with instructions that will be emailed to you before the start of classes. This will include the special schedule that Mrs. Cacacho explained in her talk and the Zoom links that will need to be accessed during the online days. For food, grade 2 to grade 4 roomies will not have a chance to buy food from the canteen. Given this, students are highly encouraged to bring their own baon, or if this is not feasible, to order food from the canteen on a weekly basis. Note, though, that drinks and utensils will not be provided in school. Students will have to bring their own spoon and fork if they need these. Other details regarding the canteen services were sent to the excess parent email last June 10, 2022. The boys will take their snack inside the classroom. Unhealthy snacks such as chips, chocolates, and candies are highly discouraged. For playing, students look forward to playtime, and given their long absence from face-to-face encounters with peers, we have lengthened the health break to 45 minutes. The first 15 minutes will be allotted for merienda inside the classroom, as described earlier, while the rest of the period may be spent on playing. The boys will be given a schedule as regards when they can play at the quadrangle, the sports center, and the football field. We are also happy to inform you that the students may visit the library on assigned days. Face masks should always be worn properly, even when playing. They will also be instructed to wash their hands and change their masks after playing. In preparing materials needed for school, to practice responsibility at home and to be ready for the next school day, your sons are encouraged to develop the habit of preparing their materials the night before. Your assistance in guiding them to do this using the Friday email schedule will be important. Printed materials needed for the week should ideally be printed over the weekend, ready to be brought to school for roomies and for use during the online classes for Zoomies. We are not letting the boys use the lockers this school year since we want them to have ready access to all their materials at all times. Given this, we discourage the students from bringing unneeded items to school in order to manage the weight of the bags and so as not to provide unnecessary distraction in class. At this point, we would like to remind parents who have not claimed their purchased books and materials, supplies, to already do so. You might want to check your spam folder in your email in case there are urgent messages regarding this matter that you have not yet read. You may also personally go to the Excess Multipurpose Hall until tomorrow, Friday, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. to follow up on this. For the things to bring on the first day. The first day of classes for the Blue Group roomies will be on June 20, 2022. Please do not forget to fill out the digital health declaration form the night before. A circular regarding the Dash Labs app was sent to you as regards how to do this. Please print the QR code generated by the app for your son, laminate it, and stick it to the back of his school ID for easy scanning at the gates. This will greatly facilitate his entry into the campus. Then kindly prepare the following for the school day. A small bag that contains a small bottle of alcohol or hand sanitizer to be placed in the pocket at all times. His HSCN, coloring and writing materials, his grooming kit containing an extra shirt, shorts, masks, wet wipes, small pack of tissue, all labeled with the name of the student. The grab bag, aside from the medical kit and other essential items in the grab bag, kindly put the following perishable items inside. 1 bar health or energy bar, 10 pieces of hard candies, and 250 to 300 ml of bottled water. Please put perishable items in a resealable bag. Please also bring the food and the water jug and his student ID. So grade 3 and 4 roomies do not have to bring their iPad on the first 2 days of their reporting on site to school. The iPad will only be brought to school starting Wednesday, June 22 for Roomie Blue and June 29 for Roomie Gold. The Fetcher's card will be released by your son's class advisor on June 20 for the Blue Group roomies and June 27 for the Gold Group roomies. This will already be used on the same day during dismissal. In preparing for HiFlex, this new school year will entail new adjustments again, especially to students who will be attending classes on site. Having a discussion with your son about how the school year will look like is also important. Agree on house rules that you will consistently implement throughout the school year and emphasize that you will support the rules that the school has put in place. You may also want to assure your son of his teacher's approachability and support. Develop a growth mindset by emphasizing that it is all right to make mistakes and that what is more important is learning from these mistakes. Given this, please be patient if the learning of routines will not happen quickly. Instead, calmly and consistently enforce routines. For lessons that are not understood at once, encourage your son to ask questions, to try even when it seems difficult, and to keep on trying until he gets the lesson. It is also important to stress the virtues of responsibility, cooperation, independence, and self discipline. Whether schooling takes place in the home or in school, these virtues have to be practiced faithfully and consistently. Thank you for listening. We look forward to working together with you. Luchat Lux.
Thank you so much for the reminders, Mrs. Liweki. So at this point, we'll give you some time to gather your thoughts and type in some of your questions in the chat box. Please remember to address them again to chat box 1 or chat box 2. Right? We'd like to thank everybody. Thank you all for your attendance in today's parents orientation. We do not have time to answer all of your questions in today's session, but as promised, we're going to collate all of them, put them in an FAQs document, which we will share with you in due time. And we will also share a link to the recording of this orientation on the school's website. So we hope you found this parent orientation helpful, and we look forward to seeing you and to having a great school year with all of you, our partner in your son's education. Have a good day and stay safe, everybody. Luciat Lu.